Able to get these Mangalitsa style pork chops from Elizabeth Farm, our new pork partner, doing this incredible quality pork. And Alex is going to show us, there's kind of a specific way to do this right. So he's going to show us on how to cook these chops that we'll be presenting at some point on our way.
So we've dried off our pork here, just taking off the excess moisture when we removed it from the pack. And that's going to make sure that our salt and our seasonings are going to adhere nicely to them. And it's going to also help to make sure we get a nice crisp golden brown crust on them. So your first thing you want to do is we're just going to be seasoning this with just salt. You can season with salt and pepper, that's a personal preference, but to make sure that we're highlighting the flavors of the pork, we're going to kind of remove some excess variables like pepper. So I'm just going to do a little bit of salt on all the sides. Don't be afraid to get the bone ends and the fat cap ends. And the meat is cold, so we're just taking this from the fridge. You don't want to let it temp up. It's going to help the rendering process. We're going to come over here to our cast iron pan now. And our pan is just warm. It's not really hot. It's not cold. We're going to turn on the heat. And to give it just a head start, we're going to add just a little bit of oil there to help the process begin. And we're going to put our pork chops in the pan. We're going to move them around, spread the oil around. And we're going to let them slowly start to render. And the temperature, or the flame, as you can see, is a high heat right now. I'm going to lower it just a little bit to a medium-high heat. And we're going to let that go until we can start to hear it sizzle. So we can hear our pork sizzling right now as the pan's warming up. And I want to talk for a second about a philosophy of cooking meats in cast iron pans brought to us by notable chef Magnus Nielsen from Sweden. And one of his philosophies is that you want to actually keep the meat moving around and turning over often, as opposed to the more classical technique of letting the steak or the pork or the protein sit in the pan until it's developed its caramelization on one side, and then you flip to the other. The purpose of this is to achieve a more evenly cooked piece of meat, and ultimately it's going to give the fats time to render slowly, offering a crisper exterior. So we're going to talk briefly about basting. This is not a necessary step when cooking meats, but it's definitely a fun one that adds a lot of extra flavor. As we're getting very close now to the doneness level that we're looking for this, which is more or less a medium rare plus, and I can tell that both by, there's a few factors. You can use a thermometer, you can feel it, the muscle itself, and it should have a little bit of spring to it. And again, the color. By the time it looks this golden brown, it's pretty close to being finished. For basting, if you choose to go in that direction, I'm going to lower that heat to low. And what we're adding is a combination of some butter, some garlic cloves that we have in our pantry, and we have some herbs from our garden, just a little bit of thyme. You can hear that beautiful sizzle, and rosemary. Now we want to let that butter brown. And we're going to take all those herbs and we're going to put them right on top of our pork chops, and we're going to tilt the pan towards us. With a large spoon, we're going to carefully baste the pork chops. Beautiful. And all the little brown bits of the butter are going to stick and help create a really unctuous, delicious crust. And so this pork is just about ready to go. So we're just going to baste for about 15-20 seconds, let it rest for about 5 minutes or so, and we can carve right into it. So our pork chop has been resting now for about 5 or 6 minutes. We're going to remove the aromatics that were laid on top of it. We're going to slice into it and see how we did. So here on this cut, you have the T-bone, bone that goes through the center and off to the sides here. So you're going to want to make sure that you come off to the side of that center bone. Nice. And then you have a secondary small muscle right here. And there. Now, another touch you can do, a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of olive oil, really brightens up all the flavors. We have a little bottle of olive oil here, so we can do a little drizzle on top.